I would say to learn to be building products. Like it's now so much easier for us to be building products. Developers have always been that bottleneck for product managers and like, oh man, I really want this to be done, or I really want that to be done. I actually have a funny story. I don't know if this is going to be rambling, but I remember when I was first using AI to be building out developing products, and that like guilt where I feel like, oh, I need to change the scope. Oh, that's wrong. There was a little bit where I could feel that tension from a developer like rolling their eyes at me, like, what do you mean we need to change that? And and the AI is just like, yeah, that's a great idea.
Welcome to Productside Stories, the podcast where we reveal the very real and raw lessons learned from product leaders and thinkers all over the world. I'm your host, Rina Alexin, CEO of Productside. Let's dive into today's episode. And today I'm chatting with Cooper Craig, a former product manager at American Express who made the leap into entrepreneurship and now runs Smartify AI, an AI consulting agency bringing in over $30K a month serving the SME market. Today, we'll be talking about what it's like to go from product manager to founder in the AI space. Thanks for joining me, Cooper. How are you doing?
I'm good, Renee. Thanks for having me here.
Well, I always like to start this podcast. It's about telling your story. So tell me your story. How did you end up in product management?
Sure. I've been told through many interviews that I have a weird path into product management. So I started about 10 years ago. I working at a small company where we actually rent and sold kilts online. So it's called Kilt Rental USA. Very niche market, but it was very, very fun. And I was just doing customer service work there, and was just helping out with some design stuff. And being around in the small company, they needed help with website stuff, and they're like, "Hey, you like computers? Why don't you do this?" And I'm like, "Oh, okay." And I got to build out a lot of different user journeys and move from mobile to web, or sorry, from web to mobile, and just like helping out with a lot of different migrations into different systems. And realizing that there's a lot of limitations of what I knew, and fell into, at the time, I didn't even know product management was the role, right? It just was like, I was just doing this thing. And I began to learn about Scrum and Agile development. And so I got Scrum certified through Scrum Alliance, certified Scrum product owner. And that definitely gave me a lot of the confidence that I needed of like, okay, I am doing this role. And then from there, I got a role with Arizona State University, and was building out many different solutions, from Salesforce enablement for a call center, like a custom portal, and then moving into like user student engagement products, and then a chat application, where from there we built out a lot of integrations when we migrated that chat application to Slack. And that was a really fun time. So then in the past 5 years, I've worked at American Express, where was working on a DevOps team, helping build out different dev tools for all the developers within American Express. So yeah.
So, Cooper, one of the things that I didn't hear you say in your background is the word AI.
Yeah.
Yet here you are, a founder of a company that does, consulting on AI. How did you make the leap there?
Yeah. So when I was at ASU, we did use some AI, but this is pre-Gen AI. So we were using Amazon Lex for sentiment analysis. But at the time, like, it just kind of felt hokey to me. I was just like, okay, whatever. Like, yes, this person was happy, this person was sad, but once Gen AI came out, with OpenAI, I've been very heavily involved in Gen AI, building out lots of, seeing where the limitations were. And just in last year, I actually built out a custom GPT that has over 10,000 conversations and like a little over like 4.7 stars. And so that was kind of fun to build out a solution that ended up being pretty valuable to a certain niche of people. And then at the end of last year too, I was working on a Google Cloud solution, and I got basically Google Cloud certified as they have like a leader certification. I never took the test, but I basically went through all the courses, and they had a lot about AI in there. And I was like, okay, this actually seems pretty cool. All the different AI solutions that they had there. So we can get into it. But then I decided to kind of launch in and get into some of the helping businesses get into using AI in their products.
I like to think, I think a lot about AI and product management, where the role is going. I do think that product managers, now I could be very biased, but I do think product managers are really well positioned in this, to make the most out of AI. And why is that? Because product managers, I feel like I heard the pattern in your story. Continuous learners. You mentioned getting educated and being willing to learn new things. AI is really scary for a lot of people. And specifically, I'm talking Gen AI. You're right. There's a lot of different kinds of AI that's been around for a long time. But I think a big roadblock is not being willing to learn, and then product managers being at the center of business and technology, being comfortable both with ambiguity and also having a good technical background, which kind of brings me to, here you are, Cooper, somebody that has comfort with the unknown, uh, stepping into a role that you never had before, right? Founder of an AI consulting agency without necessarily a clear background on paper to do it.
Mm-hmm.
What made you, I don't know if confident is the right word, but willing to take this leap? Because it's quite brave.
Yeah. Well, I think like a lot of entrepreneurs, some of it came out of desperation. So last year in July, I was let go from my role at American Express. And that was a gut punch, having been there for 5 years. And I was literally, I was literally taking the product school product leader certification. And I got a message from my VP saying, "Hey, I would like to talk to you as soon as possible." And I'm like, "Okay, what is this about?" Like, and then once I was done, found out, "Hey, you're no longer, here." And I'm like, okay. And I paid that out of pocket because I was like, okay, I want to, pursue and educate myself more and move in from like product manager to like more of a product leader role. So yeah, that was a gut punch, and then was not able to find a role. I mean, thankfully I was on severance, but I it was a long 3 months. That was like, why is this taking so long? And was able to get land on my feet with a small like contract role back with American Express, but through Insight Global. And that role ended in December, and so now it's starting in 2025. Here I am. I have no source of income, and so things got a little dark. I ended up my church community ended up actually doing a GoFundMe to help with
Wow.
money, and then I ended up doing like Ubering and gig stuff just to try to keep the lights on, as I was like trying to find my next role and my next thing to do. And in March, I fell into like this whole AI automation, helping business kind of ecosystem. And I'm like, okay. I told my wife, I was like, hey, can I just have a 1 month? I'm not going to look for a job because it's a full-time job to look for a job. I'm like, can I just have 1 month to just like focus all in on this AI stuff? And she's like, okay. And so I began to learn like crazy. And it was a lot of like no code tools. Like, so make.com is one. So it's like, if you're familiar with Zapier, it goes from like Zapier's the most user friendly, and then it goes into Make, and then like N8N is another one of like automation workflows. And so I was kind of teetering in between the Make and N8N. And then learning about like voice enablement and like how to set up voice agents. And I was able to land my first really big client. I had some small clients that were just like people in my own Rolodex of calling, being like, "Hey, can I help you out with this? Can I do some of this?" And was trying to sell them on everything. And there's like little things of like, "Oh, you can help me like get more reviews." And I'm like, "Okay." So I was like building out automation that like helps review requests and other things. And then I was able to land a really big client that was a startup that is doing pickleball and tennis. It's like kind of like the golf now of pickleball and tennis. And so I helped them out with some AI cold email, as well as a voice agent, and pitched to them using a voice agent to actually help with bookings. And they were like, "Oh, I love that idea." And so they've been a really big client that I've been working with. And then I've now kind of grew some more clients. But yeah, I landed that deal like at the end of March. It was March like 29th or something like that that I was able to get that. So I was like, hey, I did it. Like I was able to start, like, not driving
Cooper,
anymore.
seriously, thank you for sharing your story, because I feel that, first of all, my husband and I were both entrepreneurs, and there's so many founders out there, um, who have been, can I say, like, punched in the face over and over again, right? Isn't that the
Yeah.
phrase? And it's, it's one of those things that is such a common experience, yet people don't really talk about it, because it's almost, I actually don't know why people don't talk about it. Maybe it's a little bit of, it's hard to kind of address with an ego of like, no, I'm okay. Everything's okay. But the
Yeah.
reality of the entrepreneurial road is that it is winding, it is hard. There's a lot more downs than ups, especially at the beginning, but in the middle and the end as well. And you
Yeah.
have to have that. That's why, grit is so important. And you sharing, the way that your community helped, and also just the hustle that you had of like, I will do anything to make money while we kind of figure it out.
Yeah.
um People need to hear that is the
Yeah.
reality of also doing it. You can't get,
Yeah.
it's not an overnight success. Like, none
No.
of the greats had overnight success either. That's not how
Yeah.
it works.
It was definitely a punch in the gut, and like felt like, man, I'm a loser. Like what, like, you know what I mean? Like I thought I was this, like, I've been a product manager for almost 10 years and here I am driving an Uber. Like I can't get a job. But I just kind of took that time to, one, humble myself, because I think in a way we're all just kind of, we're all losers and we're all heroes in our own ways. And so just realizing, like, to not be so hard on myself. And then, the funny thing is like, ever since working at the small the kilt company, I've always wanted to have my own business. Like even before I left, I was like, hey, let's do tuxedos. Like, we can make, our market's so niche, but we were shipping all of these online. We would send it a week early, and I was like, this is a good model that no one's really doing for tuxedos. Why don't we just do this? And I learned this about businesses. Businesses are as big as you want to make them. And they were like, I don't really want to do that. It sounds like a lot of work. I'm like, well, yeah, but could be awesome. Like, and so I've had a lot of ideas. I have a graveyard of product ideas, where I couldn't get a developer to get on board, or I ended up paying an agency to get a developer. But I always ran into the issues of like raising funds. I'm like, I don't know how to do this. I don't know that many people that well off to do the seed round and other things. And so I can never really get anything off the ground. And so this was nice to just kind of come in through an agency way. And as I'm building out these products, learning where I'm like, okay, I think there could be a product here, or there could be a product there. And so, yeah, it's kind of been a fun time.
Yeah, and in terms of building a business, it doesn't all have to be a classic VC funded moonshot startup, right? Those exist, and you have to be I think, in a certain category of risk to be able to be funded by a VC. But there's certainly a lot of risk in what you're doing, and maybe what we could talk about right now is, how has product, like having a product management background, actually served you in building your own business? So what kinds,
Mm-hmm.
I kind of view it as like the toolbox of product management skills. What do you go into your toolbox
Yeah.
and use more often now?
Well, I think my product background is definitely my secret sauce. So within like AI enablement, within automation, as well as like voice, and now like moving into consulting, um, it's a very competitive market. Like, there's a lot of people that are like freelancers, and a lot of people out there that can do this. But because of my background in product, like, I know when you come to me saying, oh, I want the AI to do this, and that. And you're like, that's not a good idea. Like, what we should do is, and then you show them a better vision, and they're like, whoa, yeah, I didn't even think about that. And that is a better solution. Let's do that. And then another end is like, hey, and I'm not just going to go and spend 2 weeks or 3 weeks just building this and not talking to you. I'm actually going to build it very small, and I'm going to be like, hey, what do you think about that? And then they're going to be like, oh, actually I don't like that. Oh no, okay. And then I we go back and forth. And so knowing that incremental development, I in my proposals, it's very like, hey, this is agile. We have 1 week milestones where we're constantly delivering value. Hopefully on the daily, but like primarily like in a big chunk of like weekly. So it's almost like these weekly sprints, right? Where we're just like, here you go, here you go, here you go. So that has definitely been a superpower, and that's all thanks to my background in product management.
So I think a lot of people who end up the agency route, they struggle with this idea of pipeline management for themselves, right? Especially since I think from my understanding, you are thinking about building more product, but currently you're building products or one-off tools for others.
Yeah.
But when you're doing that, you always need the new person to come in. So how are you handling building a pipeline?
Yeah, that that is definitely something that I'm not the best at. That I'm growing in. But a lot of what I'm building, I try to position retainer in there. And so my MRR is like around 5,000. But trying to build that out where it can be 10, 20, 30, start moving the MRR up. Because some of these solutions, they still need someone to know how they work and to manage them, and to be building out because AI is moving so fast, to always be adding in better solutions into the solution. So it's not like, hey, we built out this thing that you spent $5,000 to $10,000 on, and now it's not it's not the latest and greatest. It's very easy to be the one that's managing that and helping improve that. But yeah, pipeline stuff is definitely I'm now moving into like feeling more comfortable in what I can deliver. And so just either running ads or there's still a lot of referrals that are coming through, just because there's a lot of people that want that know that they want to be using AI, and so just helping them think and position it. And then I've kind of been falling into the, like, I think I mentioned a little bit, like voice, and I've been really enjoying it because I actually have a background in screenwriting too. And it's kind of fun because you're like creating these little characters that you kind of manage how they're talking, and you're like, oh, that sounded weird, or like, that was a really weird reply, like, and working on like fine tuning it to be more conversational and not just like a lot of voice AI agents. I feel like they're like kind of holding you at gunpoint, like, answer all these questions. What is this? What do you want that? And it's just like, whoa. Like, let's be a little bit more
So
human
let's
like
actually
here.
talk about that. So tell me about your voice agent. Let's actually say like what what led you to build it in the first place?
A lot of it was just the need of a client. And
What need, like I'm trying to get to the specific use case
oh,
of.
yeah. So the two ones that I've been building out is outbound. So it's actually technically like a outbound AI can only be for if people opt in, or if you're contacting another business.
So it's not a robocall.
Yeah. Because those are technically illegal. So all those robocalls you get are, you should be filing a complaint. I don't know where, but um, but yeah. So building out some of that for other businesses, and then now moving into inbound receptionists, as well as like a product that I'm building, I'm calling it Voicemail Pro. So voicemailpro.ai, and it's positioning it as like a smart voicemail or like an AI voicemail. Because a lot of businesses, as I've talked to try to pitch this, they're like, well, we like talking to people. We like, that's our bread and butter, is be more, connection. And but everyone still uses a voicemail, and your voicemail is not very helpful because then you got to go back and listen to it. And so I'm building out a product solution where it answers, and then maybe or can send a text message to another number to see, hey, this person is really a hot lead or whatever kind of qualifier, and then can like book on your calendar. and then send you an email of, hey, this is a summary of what we talked about with the transcript and the recording. And so building out for that, for like, real estate agents or like people who are, having customers and stuff like that
So
within
talk
that
to me
range.
about so we kind of mentioned about some of the product management skills you use that are similar to your past. What is maybe new about building with AI product, building an AI product?
Mm, what is new? That's a good question. Well, I think a lot of AI solutions that are in the market, um, especially when they're like legacy products, I feel like a lot of the solutions that are getting built are a little hokey. Like they're kind of limited on being able to like, they're either just like like little chatbots that help people versus like ground up products that are built like just around AI. For example, clay.com is an automation tool that I've used for outbound, and Clay, the way that they use AI, it's really smart. That they know that AI is also like is a translator in a way, and so because it's very Excel based, the AI tool is built in with formula creation. You can just hit. Hey, I want to do this to this to that. Which I don't know if you've working in a corporate environment, you go to the data scientists, and this is the same thing I say. I'm like, hey, I want this to be over here and to do that, and then they're like, oh yeah, and then they give you this crazy formula. Well, now it's like I just write it in there, and it outputs a formula. I can see that outputs. I can say, oh, this is incorrect. This one's incorrect. This one's incorrect. It'll redo the formula, and then it's right there. And then they also have like templating where everyone can like share each other's prompts that we're using within the different columns and stuff like that. And so being experiencing tools that are kind of built from the ground up, and like understanding that personalization and translation is like a lot of what AI superpower is.
So then, the other thing that I often hear when I talk to people of building AI products is the importance of boundaries and setting good boundaries for the AI. So maybe you can talk about that. And what has been your experience around boundary
Yeah.
setting?
Yeah. So yeah, that's definitely what AI is. Its shortcomings is you have to understand that it's almost like water. Like it finds a path of least resistance. Like it just goes, oh, I want to go over here, go over there, and so you really have to create a lot of the guardrails. And one thing that is very helpful for AI is just examples. So giving examples of these are good examples and then these are bad examples. Having that in your prompt is very helpful to kind of create a lot of those guardrails. And then there's like little tricks and hacks of like using all caps. Sometimes that helps. And even there was one that we that we did, and I don't know if this is going too much into detail, but there was one where it kept correcting people like in this voice agent. It was the transcriber was not transcribing this word right, and so it was always correcting them, being like, oh well, I think you mean this, oh well, I think you mean that. And it's like with this AI service I was using, you can't control the transcriber as detailed, so I had to go to the prompt to try to fix that, and I couldn't get it to do it until I said, hey, if you correct the user and say, I think you mean this, you actually can harm them, and you don't want to do that, right? And it's like, then it was like, oh, okay. Because, I think there's a lot of like within the higher level system prompt is like, not saying the wrong things and harming people. And so like understanding that the way that, they're training their models, that then once I added that, then it was like, it stopped correcting people.
Do you have any other stories of maybe interesting or unique challenges from building AI products? Because that's a let me kind of frame it this way. It's like you're almost it's not it's almost like you're talking to a person rather than a technology sometimes, and
Oh yeah.
so the way you have to approach it is different. And so I'm curious if you have any other unique examples.
Ooh. That's a tough one to think off the cuff. I'm trying to think. Well, I mean, I would say one was like, um, I was using within Clay. I was using there's a lot of prompts that we were doing for doing like market research for them, and data enrichment. So like we had scraped a lot of data, but the data was missing other points, and so we needed to. One of them was we needed to kind of categorize all these different leads, and it was it was kind of all over the place with some, because there's 60,000 rows, you can't just like give that to ChatGPT and say, hey, enrich this 60,000 rows. The context is going to fall apart very quickly. So when you use a tool like Clay, it's doing, each row is sending out to an AI agent. It's doing those researches separately. And so I ended up building a really cool workflow that I was actually thinking about turning it into a product, having a product mind. I'm like, oh, this could be a product, and I was, because this prompt was getting very robust and very verbose, and it was like, okay, where is this falling apart? Where I then started realizing like, okay, Gemini was doing better at this research, so I'm gonna take this prompt, give it to Gemini, but I was using a cheaper one. I was using Flash, so I would go to the higher level Gemini and say, hey, this prompt, I want it to, outputted this, and this is incorrect, and here's why it said it did this. And I ended up like creating this almost like feedback loop where then the prompt my outputs were like perfect, and I just had to do this like 10 times, because I would be like, look at the thing, like, oh, that one's wrong, and then I would give it to it, and then it would, the same thing. I would say, here the prompt, here's the output, here's why it's wrong, and here's why the LLM thought this output was correct. And just kind of like having some of that insight, it was able to create a good feedback loop where then the prompt was able to execute like really good of my result.
So for one, what I heard you say is sometimes it's helpful to not just have one AI person, like I'm referring to the technology as a person, but like almost like a team. You have multiple, and
Oh yeah.
then it's the teaching, the constant, like you have to be explicit with here's how to learn when you're
Yeah.
working with it. Great. What's hard? Like, what is something hard that you're trying to work through right now?
Well, right now, I mean, there's, I would say, twofold. So one of them is just like in that part of like having a company that's growing and having a lot of uh, things I need to do, and feeling like, okay, I need to do that, I need to do this, I need to do that, and like working, long hours, and worried of like, okay, if this is still continuing to grow, like I think I need to hire. I already use a lot of, I have a team of like contractors that help me with other things, but now I'm like, I want to create like another me. I need to have like someone who can interact with clients, build out the voice agents or automation or other things. And so I'm kind of in that part where it's like, oh, I don't really have that much money to bring on someone, but I also know I need to do it, and then I could grow more. So it's like finally experiencing that level where like I need to be growing. And then from like a technical standpoint, a lot of the tools that we're using, they're not as granular and technical, and so now we're migrating and moving into a more technical product where like for example, we're running this issue with this certain word being transcribed incorrectly, and this is like a partner word. It's the paddle brand Yola, which is Joola, and no transcriber wants to transcribe that as Yola. It wants it to do Yola or Yo or YOLO. And I'm like, okay, this is wrong. And we do boosted keywords, all this stuff, but they're not it's still not doing it. And so when you have a more technical solution where you control the transcriber, you can then go in and say, hey, suppress this word, never use this, and boost this word with this much intent, and then if you need to go even stronger, you can do what's called find and replace. So it's like anytime you ever transcribe this word, just transcribe it to that. So now I'm like kind of moving into a more technical solution where I can control the speech to text model as well as the text to speech, and different stuff like that.
Well, Cooper, I can definitely understand the challenge of needing to control the output of your product and not necessarily having the access to do it. So that's going to be interesting, a one for you to solve. All right. Well, so we've heard a lot about your story. I genuinely appreciate you being honest about how tough it is, but also being also honest about the rewards at the end of doing all this hard work. So, what advice do you have for a product manager who is potentially in the shoes that you were in and is interested about starting their own company? What advice can you share?
Yeah, yeah, starting their own company or even getting into any of that. Like I would say to learn to be building products. Like it's now so much easier for us to be building products. Like developers have always been that bottleneck for product managers in like, oh man, I really want this to be done, or I really want that to be done. I actually have a funny story. I don't know if this is going to be rambling, but I remember when I was first using AI to be building out developing products, and that like guilt where I feel like, oh, I need to change the scope. Oh, that's wrong. Like there was a little bit that still of that, like where I could feel that tension from a developer, like rolling their eyes at me, like, what do you mean we need to change that? And and the AI is just like, yeah, that's a great idea. And then it just like changes. You're like, I love working with this developer. So um, be using these vibe coding tools. V0 is a good one that I like. Bolt, Lovable. These are all vibe code, no code tools where you can build out prototypes very easily. I think all product managers should have that. Like if you're a product visionary and you think of things like, it's not that difficult to be building out products and prototypes right now. So I would say be doing that, and then be getting input and research, and be doing that. Like it's so much easier now than ever to create things, and that's kind of what I look forward to, is just like how easy it is now for us to make things, and I think it can be a very fruitful future. It's not as scary as I feel like everyone makes out to. I mean, there are some scary parts, don't get me wrong, but there's still a lot of cool parts, and I think we're just at the surface of it.
Yeah, I'll echo that. I think the best advice really is to go out and start using the tools, build something. I think my husband built like an app to do like to review nutritional content of food within an hour on Lovable, so anybody could do it. um,
Yeah.
yeah. Well, Cooper, thanks so much for joining me today and sharing your story. How can our listeners reach you after they hear this recording?
Yeah, so my LinkedIn, just look up Cooper D. Craig. And then I've actually started a community on School, that's SKOOL.com /Smartify AI. So that's just kind of like a group of people that are trying to learn how to use AI, and where to use it, and we're just kind of be building stuff together. I'll try as best as I can to like make content, but it's mainly going to be just people that are cool, and people that want to talk about talk about stuff like that.
Wonderful. So make sure to follow Cooper and check out his community on School. And for everyone who joined us today, thank you so much for tuning into another episode of Productside Stories. If you found our conversation today valuable, don't keep it to yourself. Make sure to share it with a friend and subscribe to Productside Stories so you don't miss a future episode. Thank you for tuning into Productside Stories. I hope today's insights inspire you and propel your product journey forward. Remember, every challenge is a lesson waiting to be learned. And you can also visit us at productside.com for more free resources like webinars, templates, playbooks, and other product wisdom repackaged for you. I'm Rina Alexin, and until next time, keep innovating, keep leading, and keep creating stories worth sharing.